Okay, it says we're live now. So,
All right.
so let's start with the first case study.
Yeah.
And then first question. So it says identify the relationships, the important relationships in the situation. So I said that the father and the educator is an important relationship. I think it's the most important relationship here. And then mom and the educator. I said that the father was because I feel like if the educator is able to work with the father more, that then maybe he'll kind of ease up a little bit and let his child, let the son play with the kitchen area stuff, just kind of easing up and not being so tough on it or so down to that's not how it's supposed to be.
But I think because I agree with you personally, but I think that's the iffy part, and that's that section in the Code of Ethics that says, I will respect cultural beliefs, backgrounds, and differences and engage in practice that is sensitive to the diversity of child rearing values and goals.
That's what I know. I said that one too. For the ethics one, I was like, okay, as a parent life educator, I have to respect that, and I have to respect their culture and what they believe. But then there was another one in there of the ethics, and it's just where I have a few of them. One was to be aware of the impact you can have on the family and the family or on the parents and then the family relations. So I feel like as the educator, I have to be careful, especially with the dad, to not say things that are gonna impact him to be angry at his son because his son wants to play with that.
Right.
And then there was one too. It said, I will support and challenge parents to continue to grow and learn about parenting and their child's development. So I kind of okay, I need to respect their culture and everything, but I'm like, well, with that other one, I want to support and kind of challenge the parents to continue to grow and learn about the development of their child. So it's kind of was like, well, I could use that and kind of encourage the husband to look beyond just his cultural beliefs, but just kind of encourage him and show him some studies or whatnot of a child interacting with kitchen toy or son interacting with kitchen toys doesn't necessarily mean that he's going to grow up and do all the housework.
Right.
Well, just helping him realize that the child's this could help the child develop more by using that. Does that make sense?
Yeah. I mean, it's hard because I don't know. I was thinking that you could always say something to him like, well, we will try our best, or we will try to keep him out of that play area, but he's going to be exposed to it. And so there may be times when we're not always able to keep him out of that area.
Yeah.
Kind of thing. And I don't know. I just don't know how to work that, because you just don't know how strong someone's cultural beliefs are.
Yeah.
I just doubt that a teacher is going to be able to persuade them,
Yeah. That's what yeah. Should we talk about, because I guess we kind of just did the first two. So the next one's the contradictions and the tensions, and then the solutions. So should we talk about those and then the solution?
Yeah.
I know.
Oh yeah, that's good.
So the tension that I just saw was like, it was interesting because the mom went here with the son and she saw him go to the housekeeping area or whatever, and just kind of let him do his thing and didn't say anything. So to me, I'm like, the mom was kind of okay with this,
Yeah.
until, and then the dad was not. So I feel like there's going to be a tension there just between husband and wife of like, well, the wife saying, it's not a big deal, or, and the husband saying it is. I don't know. Did you notice any other?
Yeah, that's a really good point because I didn't even think of that. But why would she step back if it was a big deal to her? I feel like she would have stepped in or told him no.
Yeah, exactly. That's where I think if like mom and dad were on the same page, especially with their like of how deep their culture like beliefs go, that the mom would have stepped in. So I feel like the mom's more open to a
Or
change in the world. I don't know.
yeah, or she was scared to get involved with that because I don't know how it is for that particular culture, but I know in some other cultures women are just less. So even if you're a mom and you have a son, like technically you're less than your son. Like as soon as he becomes a man, you're less than him. So maybe she couldn't step in. And so she just kind of was like, oh, I don't want to touch this situation, I'll just let it happen.
That's true. I didn't think about that.
But I don't know.
I'm trying to think, like, it says to identify possible solutions. And I'm like, it's so hard because you don't know exactly how deep it goes, Because
Yeah.
I was like, okay, well, we could try to talk to the dad, like, total respecting it, and just kind of talk to him about um, how maybe doing things like this will make him a better man.
Yeah.
And try to turn it like, no, this is not going to make your son a girly boy. Said it could make him in turn like more of a manly man because he understands what the wife is going to have to do, or and then I was like, well, we could teach the son what the dad, because I'm like, okay, as a little boy, you tell him no, you can't go play in this area, he's going to be like, what? I don't, why can't I like to play, So I'm like, well, teaching the son maybe about the dad's views of just, this is why we don't play with these things, or what, depending on how the dad
Yeah.
could react. And then I was like, well, then having the son talk to the dad and saying, Dad, just like I like to be, and just kind of having him explain why he likes to talk to him, or why he likes to do the things in the house area. I was like, I don't know which solution.
I mean, I like that. I don't think there is a good solution, but I think it's a good idea to at least kind of talk about it and explore like how touchy that issue really is, because maybe it's not as big of a deal, or maybe it's a really huge deal to the dad and he's like, no, this is woman's work, so he doesn't do it. And then we could encourage the father to talk to the son and say, okay, you need to help him understand why you're not okay with it, so when he comes to school and I tell him he can't go in that area because mom and dad say so, he knows why. Because it just reminds me of, you get in situations where mom doesn't want their daughter to have sugar, right? And so a kid comes and brings cupcakes for everyone for birthday, but that one can't have sugar. You would still respect that wish. And so I feel like this is like the same kind of thing. Does that make sense?
Yeah, that's
But
what
I
I'm
don't
thinking.
know if that's not being a good educator, because I'm not, but I don't want to push my personal views on them.
Well, I think it would be. I think it would be okay as a family life educator, because if you had the father sit down with the son and explain to him, this is why we don't do this. Then the son talk to the father and say, Dad, this is why I like to do this. And so they can kind of maybe amongst themselves come up with the conclusion of how to work it out. I think it would be, because you're not really, you're following the ethics of, you're like respecting what they believe, you know, and you're trying to communicate clearly with them, and you're communicating openly with them, and you're just trying to support like their family ideas and having them work through it. I think that would be fine, because you're not breaking any rules. You're going to have the family talk about it, which is really just going to just going to make things better in the long run, because they're going to learn how to communicate more about things.
Yeah, I think that's the best thing we could hope for out of that scenario, is just that they talk about it.
Yeah.
But I don't think we could like actually change the behavior in the classroom or in that environment.
I don't know what you would exactly do in the classroom. Like you said, like a girl with sugar, and you can't have sugar, but if they know why, then the child's going to be more likely to keep that rule, instead of like you being like put in a tough situation of like telling the child no and disciplining him because dad says that's how he wants it, but the child doesn't understand it. And I feel like if the child doesn't understand it, it's actually going to hurt you and his relationship, because you're siding with my dad all the time. But if he understood why his dad was saying this, then he'd be more apt to follow what the rules are, you know, or what his dad wants.
Yeah, because he is 4.
Yeah.
Well, I assume so, because it's the age of the class that the kids in the class. So I think he would understand if his dad explained it to him.
Yeah.
By that age.
That's what I'm thinking is probably the best route to go, just because you're following your ethical principles that you have to have, you know, but then you're still trying to address the problem, you know, in a good way.
Well, and that would be something that's hard too, is not only to get dad on board, to get mom on board, because it says that on the thing, it says when you go to the home visit or the parent educator goes there, the father, it says it's clear that only the father is going to speak with the parent educator, and there's only a brief hello from the mother.
Yeah, so I feel like at home, mom doesn't have a lot of say.
Yeah.
It's like what you were saying, like the man's kind of over the house. He's, you know, head of the household. What he says kind of goes.
Yeah.
But I think including her in the conversation amongst like the father and the son, I think having her there would be beneficial. I think that she could, not only hear both sides, but if she wanted to, maybe give her point of view too, of, you know, whether it's not a big deal to her, or if she was just kind of keeping quiet because it's not her place to say something to her son, right? You know, that's dad's.
I think it would be important to gauge like how, I don't know how to say it, like the level of, not severity, because it's not necessarily a severe situation, but, you know, I guess how much mom can say and can't say. I mean, it's so hard because you just have to be respectful to the father in the situation and
Yeah.
see what he's comfortable with, because he might not be comfortable with his wife speaking at all or,
Yeah.
saying anything. But I think like what you said, maybe like asking him if it's okay if she's in the room because both parents have an influence or, something like that.
Yeah. I feel too that might, because you're kind of still, I feel like in this situation, you're kind of still testing the waters. Because you're not exactly sure how the husband's going to react or anything. So I think by just kind of asking him, is it okay if your wife is just in here to join the conversation? And then if he's okay with that, then maybe next time, or, is it okay if she says, is it okay if can your wife have a say in this? Or, and then you can, I mean, in further, like in other situations, you would know how the father's going to react. So you would know how to better handle other situations too.
Right.
I think you'd just be able to get a better grasp on the family as a whole. I mean, and if action didn't work of having them sit down and talk about it, at least then you would have a baseline of like, okay, I know dad's going to react this way. I know mom's not a pivot or whatever it turns out to be, and then you can try to come up with another solution based off of that.
Right.
Yep.
Yeah, I agree. And I don't think there's an ultimate solution for anything.
Yeah. I think it's going to be a lot of just trial and error. I mean,
yeah. Should we go on to the next one?
Yeah, that's fine.
Okay. Oh, that's right.
I said that the relationships that are like important in here was the educator and the mom, and then I feel like the mom and the daughter. And I said that like I think the educator and the mom, like their relationship is going to be really important because you want the mother to trust you as an educator, so they'll open up to you and because I mean, if there is abuse going on,
Mm-hmm.
then you need to, I mean, as part of the ethics code, like you need to report that. But I think it'd be better to find out more, like build a better relationship with mom first, to find out what's really going on, and then from there you can say, okay, no, there isn't abuse, or yes, there is abuse. Because I feel like if you didn't have that relationship and you just jumped right into reporting abuse, and there isn't, then the dad's gonna become protective, and then you won't be able to work with the children or the mother again.
Right.
So, I don't know. Did you see any other like important relationships with? I didn't see like, the father in there a lot.
Let's see. Yeah. I think too, just having a good relationship with the toddler too, because they're gonna. Well, I don't know in this situation. No, it's a class for toddlers and their parents, but like even toddlers with limited English can, convey certain messages and things like that. So if you build trust with mom and you're building trust with the toddler, then, when you're talking to another toddler or you're saying something about daddy or making or whatever, they might hint at something or say ouch. And then, like, oh, they associate daddy with ouch or, certain things like that will help you see if there's even a case or if you need to report anything.
That's true, because I think sometimes it might be easier to get things out of a child than it would be an adult.
Yeah.
Like, because I mean, kids can, I mean, even just them drawing a picture can give you an insight to what they're thinking and how they're feeling. And so, yeah, that's true. I think having a really good relationship with the daughter, the toddler, that
Mm-hmm.
That would be good.
Well, yeah, and then if mom sees what's going on, like let's say we're gonna have all the toddlers draw or use pictures for, I don't know, for like Father's Day, or do some kind of project, and they can pick their colors, and from the way that her toddler colors, it's like super aggressive and it's black and it's like, I don't know, and then they say certain words. If that happens in front of mom, that's perfect, because then she might start confiding in you.
Yeah.
I don't know, because at the same time, you don't want to embarrass her. You don't want her kid to blurt out something in this class, and then all of a sudden she's just embarrassed and tries to play it off, and then it's like you'll go back.
I feel like, I don't know, as a mother, I feel if I was in a situation like this and I saw my daughter, my son, drawing pictures or expressing himself where their view of dad is not good, or like you said, like dad, if dad is abusing, I would want to know that, because for me as a mother, I think that would make me want to like protect my child more, so it would make me want to act on it instead of just like being complacent and leaving my child in a harmful situation. I would want to act, and I would want, and who knows, maybe sometimes moms don't know if dad's abusing child if they're not there, or
Right. Well, I mean, it sounds like she knows, because
yeah.
Then that makes me wonder too, because it says she alludes to the father being abusive. I wonder if she's trying to send a message, and kind of like, kind of like a cry for help, but it's not direct, just leaving little pieces of the puzzle like here and there.
And that's almost it kind of makes me think of something along that lines, just because it said like, if the dad feels threatened or anything, that he's going to pull his family. I mean, they'll pull any support that he feels threatened by from the mom and the daughter. So I think as a mom, she might be in this cry for help in a subtle way, because she knows if I just come out and say this and something happens, that my husband's I won't be able to come back again, and I won't be able to be in this environment again. And I think the environment that they are in is good, because it said that the toddler had several developmental delays, and the mom had some too. So I think that the mom would enjoy being in this environment, just because she's able to learn more.
Right.
With things. But so that kind of brings like to the ethics part. There's one in there that talked about, well, of course there's the abuse one, reporting abuse. But then there's one also that respecting and accepting the parents and other families for who they are, and recognizing their developmental levels and circumstances. So I think as a family life educator, it'd be good to like recognize that both mom and baby have some issues, but we're not gonna turn them away because mom has issues or something. Instead, we're gonna try and work with them and get those, I don't know, to a better lifestyle. There's one in there too. It said, I will communicate respectfully and clearly with family members. When I read that, I was kind of like, okay, I think that if you as a family life educator could talk to the father and just get him to be more comfortable with the idea that you're going to help mom and daughter grow, like just with their developmental delays, then I think he might come to trust you a little bit more. And then if there, I don't know, I was trying to figure this out. Like, if there is a problem, then I'd try to, I mean, of course I'd report it, but I'd want to report it and make it so, like, when they do go and look into it, that they have no idea that it came from me. Because I want to be able to build the father's trust and be like, no, I didn't do anything. I'm just here to help your wife and your daughter grow and like development, not abuse wise. I'm not doing anything abuse, like, they haven't told me anything. I mean, because you want to keep that confidence between you and the member that told you that or whatever. But I was just trying to think, okay, if I can like be respectful and to the dad and try to include him in some of the learning, then maybe he'd, I don't know, maybe I'm like reaching, like trying to change him for to make him a better person, and maybe make him realize that, like, yeah, your wife and daughter have some development delays, and that doesn't mean you should take advantage of them.
Yeah, I don't know.
I was like, I don't know.
Well, so it's hard. It's so hard because we had, when I was doing teaching the 2-year-old class, we had there were 2 that we were worried about because we can't do anything. You have to just watch for signs of abuse, which is really heartbreaking. But like, we had one little boy who he was just not happy when his dad showed up, and the relationship with mom and dad was really interesting. And it's just, we saw a lot of red flags, but not enough to actually report anything. It was so heartbreaking because he was so cute, the little boy. But I think like in his situation, we did get to interact with both parents, but we just made the focus all about him, because mom wasn't at a place where she was ready to reach out, and that was fine. But she would like say things that made us like wonder, but we just made it all about their son and made sure that the dad knew too. It was like, hey, if you're willing to do this at home with your son, he will, do this better, or his behavior will. So, yeah. I mean, in this case, I think that's all you can do. I don't know if it would be good to say, hey, I know your wife has developmental delays, yeah. But just to say that it's good, I don't see why even an abusive spouse, I don't see why they would be against a child learning more. You know what I mean?
One thing that made me think of, so maybe not saying your wife, but there's one of the ethical codes too is to like encourage education. And so I would encourage the education not only like for the toddler, but also like for the mother too. Like, why don't you and your wife come to the class too, and you can all learn about education and like how to better help your daughter be educated, and I don't know, like just encouraging them, because I feel like if there was a way, like you were saying, I want to say this right, like to get them, like if the son, like in your situation, if he was like, if the dad said, his thinking and like was like, well, he misbehaved, so I do this to him. Well, if you can say, oh, well, we can just educate you about like and getting him like behaving better and different stuff like that. I wonder if that would help him, like, oh, there's another way to fix these problems or whatever besides abuse.
Well,
I don't know.
I like that, but that's also tricky too, because a lot of them are very defensive and very like, what? Okay, so you're trying to tell me how to raise my child? I know how to raise my child, So
I think it would just have to be like ideas, and you almost want to make it like, I don't know. I know some people like if you can somehow turn it to make it seem like it was their idea in the first place, then they're more likely to accept it, especially like being like controlling like that. If it's like, oh yeah, that's a great idea and I'm going to try that and I thought of it, I feel like if they thought of it, I mean, like, then that would be more likely to help. I don't know.
Yeah. No, I love that.
Because it's like, where's that point of like, how much information do you have to like report an abuse?
I don't know. Every place is different with their policies, but I think you do have to have physical evidence of it.
Yeah.
And it's got to be enough, unfortunately, to where, there's an actual
case against it, or
like a lot of times, I guess, with toddlers and 2-year-olds and stuff, if it's on their back or on their arms, like, it's really easy to leave handprints if they're grabbed too aggressively. So things like that are more, but if it's just a regular, if it's just a little bruise, like, even that you can explain away.
I feel like too, watching that would also, if you could get the father in to like come and participate and just learn like just trying to get him to take an interest in his daughter's education. I think too, then as an educator, you could see the interaction between them and then you would have a better idea of, yes, this is happening, or no, this isn't happening.
Yeah.
Because I do feel like in this situation, you kind of have to dig a little bit more to have enough to go on to report it.
Like, yeah, and even then, you might not get all what you need to report it. And but I think the best thing you can do is kind of like what you were saying, is just be sneaky about it. Don't address him. Try to help them come up with ideas and think that, it was all them. And then just keep it child focused, because I think you can manipulate their behavior in a positive way if you make it all about the child, so they don't feel defensive or anything like that.
Yeah. But there's a point where you don't want to make like everything out to be the child's fault.
No, not like that, but like,
because I'm thinking like if they had like behavioral problems or whatnot, like sometimes kids are acting the way they're acting for a reason, and it's not always all their fault. And I don't feel like I want to give, if he is an abuser, I don't want to give him something that like, oh, well, my child is messing up all the time, so I need to continue to do this. I don't want to give him any excuse like that. You know what I mean?
Yeah. But what I mean by keep it child focused, like on their child, is like what we did when we had the situation with that little boy I was telling you about is dad would ask questions and mom would too, like if certain behaviors were normal, and they usually were. They're usually very normal. And as soon as we reassured them, you could just see, like, all of a sudden they didn't need to go home and punish him or anything like that. They just, so I think if it's the same thing, if we're like, oh yeah, your toddler does do this, but so do all the other toddlers here, kind of like,
there's nothing wrong with him.
Yeah, it's normal. It's because I think, because when they think it's their fault or they feel like they have a right to blame them for something, then the abuse is going to be a little bit more prevalent. But if they know that most children go through this, it's pretty normal, I think they might, I don't know, back off a little bit.
My worry too, like, so kind of, I don't know, like a tension that could be there is like, I feel like some people, when they have a child that's slower or like this, there's developmental delays, like this daughter has. I feel like some parents get angry about that, and so they'll take it out on their child.
Yeah.
And that's something that I would worry about. because she has, like, because the toddler has some delays, like, I don't want the father to think that, like, it's her fault and, like, he needs to punish her because she's not doing this, you know, like, I feel like making, just, like, putting an understanding out there for everybody of, like, it's okay. And so, I mean, there's lots of people that do have delays, you know, and we can work with this so she can get to where she's supposed to be. I don't know. I just, because I feel like some parents would, like, punish their kids because they're not where they're supposed to be. I don't know. And then I'm just trying, so another tension I kind of found was just like, you have to be so careful because you don't want the father to take them out of the program.
Well, I don't think he would have any reason to unless
there's, like,
yeah.
Well,
like,
they said that in here, it says that, like, you've been told that the father will pull any support if he feels that, like, he's threatened at all. So I think just being careful of, like, what you say and how you say it, so you don't come across like you're above him. I feel like you have to play it like you are on the same level that he is,
or
lower.
That it's his fault too, because in the beginning or with the first meeting or two, if he feels like he's being blamed or being told he's a bad parent or that he parents his child incorrectly, he's gonna take off.
Yeah.
So yeah, you would have to earn his trust too. And
I'm trying to think. So, I mean, we've kind of had a lot of different possibilities.
Yeah.
But what do you think is going to be, like, the best, like, action to take with it? Like, I don't know, and it kind of depends on, like, if the father's willing to come or not. Because I feel like if the father's not willing to come, I feel like the best thing is going to be, like, building the best relationship you can with the mother and to educate her and to get her to realize that, like, it's not okay if she's being abused and that she can get out of that if if that is the case. But if the father is willing to come, I think focusing on the child, like you said, would probably be one of the best things to do. I don't know. What do you?
I think in both cases with mom and dad, like, let's assume dad's not coming. I think we need to focus on the child too, because we don't know what spot she's at. Like, we don't know how long the abuse has gone on, how severe it is, if she's ready to jump ship or if she's still kind of stuck. So I think by just focusing on what the child needs, you're going to build trust with mom, and then you're going to make her feel important, especially if dad's kind of doing his own thing or not really, interested.
I feel like, oh, sorry, go ahead.
No, you go.
I just feel like including the mother and all that, like, maybe you can focus on the child, but including the mom and getting her trust would be huge too. And I don't know, I feel like the mother needs to be educated a little bit too, because she does have some delays, and I think if you could throw that into the mix with, focus mainly on the child, but add some stuff in there for the mother too, I think she'd feel more comfortable and just, like, you are really fun. Like, I don't know, she trusts you.
Like, how would you add stuff in there for the mom?
See, it's like I don't know why I'm confused. I guess I would want to know what delays were for both. Because if they were similar, then you can work with the child on that problem, but include the mom in some of the work too. Like, okay, mom, why don't you try to do this too? Whatever exercise it is that you work that child on, get the mother including it or things like it, so she also learns.
Yeah.
Like, it reminds me of it's one of the love's enduring promise. Something, I don't know. But anyways, there's a lady and she's going to this Indian camp kind of thing, and she's teaching all the children how to read and know their letters and all that stuff. And there's a dad that doesn't know how to do it either, so he joins in, and then he also in turn learns all those things. So if you're able to kind of just include the mother in the learning, so she's able to learn those things too, then she'll figure it out herself.
Yeah, I think we're just, whoever's doing the educating would have to be really careful on how they do that, because it is a class with other parents and toddlers, and you don't, if it's an obvious thing, you don't want, mom's going to figure it out that you're targeting her, or that she might already be really self-conscious from what's going on at home. So again, it's like what we talked about, you just kind of have to be sneaky and maybe work it in every now and then, making it seem more typical.
That's what, if you could, I would choose to do like one-on-one with them. Instead of being in a big And I don't know, when I think of family education, I think of that. I think sometimes, yes, you're going to be in a group, but other times you're going to be like one-on-one with a child with delays, or with a family, talking with just that family, and not all the other families that are.
Yeah. Yeah, I'm just looking at the thing again. Yeah. I mean, I don't know, something else to do is, it says that the mom alludes to abuse, right? And it says that when you talk to others who have dealt with the mom, you've been made aware of dominance of the father and his family. But, I mean, just to play devil's advocate, we don't know. I mean, I think we have a tendency, if a woman comes or people talk to her and they paint a certain picture, but we don't really know dad's perspective. We don't. So I think in the beginning, you just have to take it slow and watch and listen to certain comments, but it's not always, as severe as the situation kind of looks. Does that make sense?
Yeah, I tried to put in headphones to see if I won't. Sorry. No, that makes sense. I think that, if you could, and that's the thing, I think you have to do your own investigation work. You can't just rely on what other people have said about the family or whatnot, because it could be over exaggerated or not,
Yeah, or perceived abuse, which is still bad, but maybe her own perceived abuse would make us think that the child's also been abused, when really, that situation is not exactly like that.
Yeah. That's what I think. I think you need to take the time to get to know the family a little bit better and like you said, just focus on the child at first and working with that, and then trying to include father and mother, and really getting a sense of what's going on in that home.
Yeah.
Because I mean, I don't feel like you can just ignore it, and
No,
I
you
feel
want
like if there is some evidence, yeah, you need to dig and find. I mean,
well,
if I know a child's being, I mean, if I don't know, I feel like if I know a child's being abused, I'm gonna say something. I want the best for that child. I don't want to have them in a situation like that. So I couldn't just let it like, oh no, you guys are just over exaggerating things. That's not how it is. Like, I want to know for myself if that is going on or not.
right. But then that's careful to, it's a good thing to remember too, is it's good to kind of dig a little bit, but it's not good to dig with the intention of finding something, because then any little thing you see, you're going to attribute it to that. And that's a dangerous road, because then you could be completely convinced it's happening. You report it, nothing happens. Then dad pulls mom and child out, and you never see him again. You can't even help them. So
exactly, you have to dig with in hopes of not finding anything. Really, I mean, that's what you do, hope. And yet you don't want to find something. You don't want to be looking.
Well, and think about it too. What's scary about reporting it is you could put that child in a situation where they're taken away from mom and dad completely. And I don't know, it's just a whole, you have to be absolutely sure that it's going to be better for the child to be taken away from their parents, than unless mom's like ready to leave, and that's a whole nother thing. But
exactly, that's right. You have to find out too, like, if they are being abused. And I mean, best case scenario would be like mom and child leave and start a new life somewhere else, where they're not going to have that. But I don't know. We just talked about the violence cycle class, and so it's like there's that whole cycle that that you go through, and so it's hard for women to leave too. But
yeah,
you have to definitely walk on your toes, and I mean, be careful.
Yeah, it's hard because it's good to discuss like what we should do or what we might do. When you're actually in the situation and you're looking someone in the face who you think is hurting this family, you're scared. Like, because when I was confronted with that one child's father, and he would come, he's this like big, just burly guy, and you just don't want to say anything to make them mad. Like, you just don't want to mess with them. It's so hard.
Well, yeah, and you don't want to say anything to make the circumstances at home maybe become worse.
Yeah.
You have to be so careful, because it's like, I don't want to say anything that is going to turn into that child being hurt more,
Exactly. Yeah, it's hard, but at the beginning you just kind of have to watch and see.
Yeah. Okay, do you think that's all of it?
I think so. Do you have any other ideas for that, or?
I don't.
Yeah, I think we've kind of talked about all the possible situations. I don't know. Like, I know we did, but going through and reading the code of ethics, it's just, in real world situations, some of these are just going to contradict each other.
Oh, yeah.
So it's just, I don't know. But yeah, I don't have anything else to add. It's like,
Okay. I'll stop recording then.
okay.